2, 1, blast off. Welcome to Mission Cannabis Control. I'm DJ Dank. I'm coming to you live from the smoking lounge of the Mission Cannabis Club in San Francisco. It's a lovely, chilly day, cloudy, cold, windy. It's called summer in San Francisco, and that's one of the reasons I've lived here for 18 years. Welcome, I'm DJ Dank. This is the beginning of a podcast series focusing on San Francisco with a queer point of view. Everybody you see won't necessarily be gay or whatever, but there'll be allies, friends, and people interested in what we have going on. There's a great queer cannabis movement in San Francisco, which has basically been going since about 2016. I've been involved with the cannabis community since about, I would say, 2015 or so, back at the last days of 2015. At that point, a friend of mine was working, she'll be on in a minute, and found out that there was very little going on anywhere that had anything to do with the gay community and the cannabis community. So at that point, we decided to band together and create a groundbreaking drag show called Puff, which debuted at the Stud in 2016. It lasted all the way until COVID closed us down. But it was the very first time where the queer community and the cannabis community got to know each other. I myself knew they would get along like gangbusters, because all the queers that I hung out with at clubs and went to drag shows with, we all had smoke breaks and smoked weed. So I just would go to cannabis events and realize they had the weed, they just needed to have the drag queens, the entertainment, and so we've been combining them ever since. So since then, we have been blooming and creating more and more cannabis nightlife, especially coming out of COVID. I've been producing Bongo Bingo here at Michigan Cannabis Club, where it's a combination of drag, bingo, and cannabis, and lots of cannabis prizes. That's the second and fourth Saturdays of the month here at Michigan Cannabis Club, and we have lots of other stuff going on. But one of the things I did do as I partnered with a person named Maria Connor for several years on a project called Under the Golden Gate. With Under the Golden Gate, basically, we explored the underground culture of San Francisco, a lot of kink, a lot of gay, a lot of everything. We probably made over 714 videos that represent what was going on in San Francisco at that time. I was looking back the other day and I actually laughed because we were joking about gentrification. Little did we know. So, but one of the things we did do that is we started the talk show. It was called Under the Golden Gate Live. And when we first started it, we literally did it in Maria's apartment with like a backdrop and kind of pasted it all together and did it. And we did go on further and do bigger shows like at kink.com and other venues around the city, and we talked to lots of different kind of rock stars and things like that. But there was something about that original time when we were just sitting here with our friends, talking about stuff, smoking weed, and getting a little audience around and talking about stuff that was concerning of us. And so when Michigan Cannabis Club mentioned to me they were looking for more programming, I immediately thought of Under the Golden Gate and what I could do. So I decided to come up with my own podcast, which is you're seeing the debut of. So please welcome and just know how cool you are by being here watching this right now and happening. So, but yeah, other than that, I also am a cannabis writer. I write a column for 48hills.org called Puff. I've been doing that for about 6 or 7 years. I'm sure we'll be having Mark Beachy, who is the editor of that, here on one of our shows. And other than that, I think we're going to get to the point where we're going to start talking about the news and things going on. One of the things that I noticed that was funny, I was going through the cannabis news today, and I actually saw that there was an article about a bunch of United Airlines. They were ramp cargo agents, and they got charged by the FBI for, for conspiring to distribute a controlled substance. Basically, they were paying people who were checking baggage to steal weed out of people's baggage and then give it to them, and they were going to go and sell it. As a matter of fact, when I was reading about it, at one point, they've been doing it for so long, evidently the workers were being paid up to $2,000 to $10,000 a week to actually snag the stuff out of people's cargo coming out of San Francisco and giving it to them. And even at one point, they were even robbed at gunpoint in the parking lot of their bags of weed. But they actually reported it, but they did not actually turn the point of cannabis part in. But the FBI were onto it. They had surveillance cameras going, and they got caught. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. The thing that caught me with that the most was that really, how much weed goes through San Francisco airport in a day or a week? It makes it that my mind boggled when they told me they were taking out big giant trash bags full of weed out to their cars. And for me, in my era, it was always kind of like nervous just to like take a couple of joints in there, much less a big giant bag of weed. I guess times have changed. So, but for more perspective on that, I would like to turn to doing the news and the cannabis news. I want to bring one of my cohorts on. Veronica, you want to come in? Here comes Veronica. Let's give her a hand. Thank you so much. Now, Veronica was the one that had the idea the very first day when she was working. Who were you working for at that time, doing advertising?
Oh, that was, I think the Guardian was still around.
It was the Guardian, right. It was the Guardian.
It was close to that.
And you were dealing with a bunch of cannabis companies.
Yes, yeah. Between the Guardian and the SF Weekly.
And we were out, and I remember very vividly you on your phone, like the more I researched, there's like nothing going on between the cannabis world and the LGBT.
Yeah. Well, it also was inspired by a group called Women Grow, which was a company at the time that was really big in bringing people all over the cannabis industry, from the cultivator to the woman at the bud tendering bar to everybody in between, just as a way for people to be able to connect with each other, because we didn't see too many women in cannabis at that particular point. And I thought, wow, this is so awesome. This is a great way to meet people. I wonder if there's anything like that for the LGBT community.
Right.
And you know, we looked, and we had a friend of ours looked also too, and there was nothing. There wasn't even like an idea of something like that. And that was weird, because I knew that the movement started here in San Francisco.
215 and
Dennis Perone, Brownie Mary, you know,
Wayne Justman, all those people.
Absolutely, you know, and the fact that there wasn't any sort of gathering or, you know, meetup was kind of strange to me. And then you brought in the idea of, oh, well, why don't we make it also more than just like a meetup, like, oh, an actual evening out, because truthfully, there wasn't anything. There still is not anything, you know, for like a night out to go and, you know, toke out and meet people who are interested in the same things you are. So, yeah, so that's kind of where we went on that.
And look how far we've come now.
Yeah, almost 10 years later. It's kind of weird to think about it.
10 years?
Not quite. We're somewhere between 7 and 8.
Time keeps on slipping into
weird.
the future. Steve Miller Band headed right along. Well, so you're going to give us insight into what's going on in the Bay Area and the cannabis world.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, to expand on the craziness you were talking about of SFO.
Yeah, how much do you think goes through SFO?
You know what, it's got to be thousands of pounds a year. In order for that kind of a cut to go into something like that. But I mean, it just goes to show, it's still the Wild West. I mean, we were talking about this on the phone earlier, you know, there was this attempted robbery in Oakland last week that involved a forklift. Who's gonna bring a forklift to a robbery and without like either common knowledge of what's going on in that building, or, you know, it's just almost a little too sussy on that one, where it's like, but the cops didn't really show up. You know, but if we were talking about if this happened over at Saks Fifth Avenue or Neiman Marcus, do you think this wouldn't be everywhere?
I'm going to wait for the movie. And as soon as you said forklift, I knew they'd eventually make a movie out of it.
Yeah.
Steven Soderbergh will do it.
Yeah, it was wild. But I mean, back to everything. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. You survived it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to, you know, see everybody out there and stuff like that. Also, shout out, we brought up Wayne Justman. Shout out to him. He was in the parade this year with Compass.
If you don't know, Wayne Justman is patient number 1 in the cannabis community. He was the very first patient, first cannabis patient in the world.
And actually the world, to be recognized for that.
We'll be on the show another time.
Yeah.
So go ahead, give us
I mean, June was kind of a wild month all the way around. I mean, we had something called AB 374, which passed earlier this month. It was brought up by Assembly member and former SF Board of Supervisor for District 6, Matt Haney. And now the possibility of cannabis cafes throughout the state of California is a reality. It passed 64-9, so even Republicans were on board with this idea on the majority side. To be truthful, I'm not sure how quickly that'll work throughout the rest of San Francisco, just because any sort of consumption has to be attached to a shop. Fortunately, we're in one of those locations right now.
Right.
So who knows, there could be a really cute little snack shack right over here, you know, get your coffee and have some live music.
So they have approved a thing where you can actually serve food.
Yes.
So that way you can get your weed, get like a sandwich.
Absolutely. And then buy something, you know, drink that's non-cannabis related. Because that was something that was brought up years ago, and, you know, people were like, well, I can't buy something, but I can have it delivered. How does that work? Like, isn't there a cool local company that wants to sell me a sandwich or something?
Right, because you can bring food to almost any of these cannabis smoking lounges.
Right, and it's just a matter of
you can serve it.
Right. So yeah, now this is cleared the way. So hopefully that'll bring it out to some other.
I wonder who the first company is going to be decide to put their little oven in and start making like cookies or
pizza or something fun like that.
Something fun like that. But those press sandwiches.
Panini.
Yeah, panini.
Someone will have like
a stoner panini.
I like that idea. However, and that was at a state level. However, locally, the very next day, our own board of supervisors decided to pass a local moratorium on new cannabis businesses, specifically retailers. That'll be through the end of 2027. That does not affect people who are already in the line. That includes social equity applicants. That's about 100 retailers, give or take.
And so, since Morris can't be here today, one of the things I would like you to say, what is social equity?
Okay, social equity is, it varies between each local jurisdiction, and the state is coming up with their own true definition. And what this means is for a demographic of people who have been restricted from being able to openly participate or who were directly affected by the war on drugs.
Right.
This would be people who are in low income areas, people who have had family members or themselves were arrested for cannabis crimes, people who lived in certain neighborhoods their whole lives where there were, patrol cars around and other things, people who are veterans in other jurisdictions outside of San Francisco, single mothers have been brought up in other jurisdictions outside of San Francisco. The criteria changes between locality, but it's basically, if you were to sum it up in a couple of sentences, it would be anybody who has not been given a fair shot to access business, whether it be banking or due to hardship on a traditional level, or education. So it basically comes down to that, giving people a leg up.
Well, people talk about that a lot. I don't think a lot of people understand what equity is.
I don't think they do, or they think, oh, well, it should be open for everybody. Well, unfortunately, it's expensive and it's a really hard process to open any cannabis business.
So with equity, they get a little bit more of it's more like they're on the...
It gives them that leg up. It's almost like if you've ever seen that cartoon with the people on the fence. And
it's like using the carpool lane rather than a regular...
Absolutely, 100%. It's giving somebody a little bit of that carpool lane.
Which they deserve because they've been through hardship, because of what they've been through, been jailed.
Exactly, or they don't come from an area that has, a particular amount of financial wealth, and that's the whole point, is to, have people start building generational wealth. Now, here's the interesting thing is that the ideas have been brought up that equity businesses don't necessarily also have to be cannabis related, even though there could be a cannabis charge on top of that. Like, let's say somebody's like, I don't want to open up a weed business, but I'd like to be able to open up a cookie shop or a nail shop. There are paths we're hoping eventually to kind of build those kind of ideas.
Okay, well that's cool.
So that's a whole other thing, So with the moratorium, it's kind of a mixed bag, because assuming in the next 4 years all of these businesses that are in the queue get ahead, that's going to be roughly another 100 retailers or so in San Francisco.
They're already in the queue. So
they're already in the queue, right? And that's assuming all of them get through. And
because I will say there are quite a few dispensaries here in San Francisco.
Right. There's roughly between 35 and 40. Right. And then another 30 or so delivery services.
It's pretty quickly lately, because there weren't any in my neighborhood. I guess maybe a couple
right.
a year ago, and now they're like 3.
Right, the map has definitely expanded on that one. Where you are seeing stuff in different neighborhoods. You're seeing it out in the outer Sunset, Nob Hill, where you are, the Marina, Fisherman's Wharf.
Russian Hill Cannabis Club just opened, which is the
sister of
this one.
Yeah,
and I understand there's going to be the Union Cannabis Club.
Yes, that one just opened.
That one just opened as well. Right. So and they all have smoking lounges.
Yeah, well, no, not Union.
Yes, it does.
No, Union.
Oh, okay. I heard it did. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. We haven't got over there.
Let's go there. Okay.
Yes, that'll be our next.
That'll be our date here now. Okay.
Okay. So it's kind of a mixed bag, because some people feel it's not fair. If somebody hasn't necessarily gotten the means yet to start applying for that second shop or third shop, or even get in the queue. But to be fair, it's already 2023, and 3.5 years kind of goes fast in the way cannabis runs, at least locally.
Well, it seems like it now. I remember when we first changed the law over, and it seemed so odd, and now it's been like 2 or 3 years, and we're just kind of all used to it now.
Yeah, all the wildness and everything's been actually 5 years at least now.
5? Yeah. Gosh, see, I'm no good at time. Time is not my thing.
So speaking, let's get
on. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so in social media and local business news, we mentioned this earlier to each other, Twitch has changed their policy regarding branding and use of cannabis on the platform, and it's not for the better. They've decided to eliminate that possibility for any of their main streamers.
So any Twitch shows that have cannabis in them can't be?
You can't vape, you can't consume, and you can't have a delivery service magically come by anymore with the bag. Which is kind of a hypocritical thing, because they're allowing that for alcohol consumption.
Oh well.
Under just the label contains adult material, and the thing is, Twitch is now owned by Amazon, which, to be honest, has both liberal policies for cannabis use, Then obviously they do, I think it's the one and done test, as long as it doesn't interfere with your job. But then they also have been wanting to get into the cannabis space themselves. So for them to say to their Twitch, their top Twitch people, no, we don't want to see you do any sort of consumption, is kind of a bit of a smarmy little take on everything. Not too much of
it just makes you not do Twitch. It's just you mark it off your thing.
You and I are not the main demographic, but people under the age of 25, they're fascinated by that kind of stuff. So, man on that. Real quick on extra local news, and kind of a queer thing. Divas, a former location of Divas next to Grassroots.
Divas was the legendary trans bar.
Yeah, one of only two in the country at the
time. Down there on Polk and Southern.
Polk and Post.
Post, sorry, fuck off.
Yeah. No, right next to
Grassroots. Grassroots, right.
Is now officially a shroom church.
Shroom church,
second in San Francisco to open within the last 30 days. Side door from Oakland has one out of Howard and 7th, and now we've got a second one next to what used to be Divas.
Well, I'm telling you, in this world today, there are a lot of people that need to have a little mushroom dosage.
I really appreciate, honestly, some of the microdosing lessons and some of the wellness things that are out there now. I know that.
Do you do mushrooms a lot?
I have done a full month thing, and I also for fun every once in a while.
Of course, for fun. I mean,
But no,
in Texas, we used to go flopping over the cow patties in Austin.
I have done the microdose.
I want to try that.
It's really cute. It actually really helps.
Too. It's just kind of like when I first heard of it, I was all like, well, I don't know, I'm taking a little bite of mushroom and not trip for hours.
Yeah, no, you've got
this is a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's about setting attention and just kind of looking at it from a therapeutic standpoint.
I find it fascinating.
Absolutely.
And so I understand when you go to this church, you just you can't buy anything, you just make a donation.
Yeah, you donate to, and you look for a sacrament, and, possibly for guidance. If you don't already.
And then my friend showed me they give you this little package where you have like a little dosage and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool.
Right.
I'll have to go check it out. I tried to go the other day, but it was closed.
That's bringing it back to that alternative medicine, kind of almost the original idea of how medical marijuana was like back in the day.
We have so many empty businesses. I mean, it's great that the Divas place has something to go. I mean, one of the things I feel like with the city being in such a rut, I keep on wondering why they just take their eyes off of tech and turn it towards green, because the whole idea of what's here in the Emerald Triangle in San Francisco, and the ideas of things they could do with all this extra footage, they could create this whole world that would be something similar to what they're doing with Napa, or something with the wine, but they can be doing with weed in San Francisco, and be taking advantage of all that. But this current administration doesn't seem to have that kind of vision.
Agreed. And also, I mean, to be fair, a lot of cannabis businesses and even processing centers, from all the way from a retailer to distributor to cultivator, I mean, there's a lot of security risk with any of that. There is, which is really sad.
And there's also a lot of fantasy too, because that means we have to get the state behind all these things and change all their rules and regulations to ease up a little bit. One thing I want to say to the state of California is ease up on the cannabis community. We're just trying to get our businesses started. Give us some time to get the roots gone, instead of just starting to tax us and license us out the wazoo from the get-go. I mean, give us a chance. But that's just me.
No, I understand.
I think all the cannabis community feels that way too. The thing is since we've been doing since we started doing Puff and started doing think of all the amazing sponsors who have come and donated their love and their cannabis stuff with us, and they're not nowhere to be seen anymore. And I mean, that's going to happen when you have that transition, but it's an awful large number. And even for the people that you and I both know people that's crossed every T, dotted every I, and where are they? They're somewhere else doing, making something else. Mm-hmm. And they're not in that community anymore. And I think that's a shame, because there are so many people that had such great heart and so much hope for that. But we keep soldiering on, and we're still here.
Agreed, very much so.
And that's always makes me excited. I mean, we have Manzanita on later, and they're one of the big success stories from all that. I mean, and we'll talk about what must be their secret ingredient in a minute, but. You think we talk about this all the time. There are so many people and so many things that are not around anymore. And like I said, of course, that happens with the changing and the growing.
Right, but not necessarily. I know what you mean to this extreme where it really honestly.
And, right now, I mean, name a neighborhood that doesn't have half of it shuttered up.
Very true.
I mean, I don't really think necessarily have to have dispensaries everywhere, but maybe a cannabis cafe here or there, or a cannabis museum, or some kind of something. But there has to. I just feel like there are so many ideas, and there's so much growth, no pun intended, potential from the cannabis community coming into San Francisco, and that's why I envisioned it when the laws changed, and nothing happened.
I hear you. And to be fair, some of the ones that have opened up since the changeover from Prop 64 kicking in and that have finally opened, whether it be around COVID or not, that have been in like the walking neighborhoods like Russian Hill, like Clement Street, like Ocean Beach, like Irving, they're thriving. They're some of the few that are actually doing somewhat okay. Granted, they're still getting robbed, so it's not perfect.
Yeah, well.
But they've got a happy, they've been welcomed into the neighborhoods, which is honestly something amazing. I know that there was something recently passed in from the Department of Cannabis Control where they are granting money into 18 new cities so they can possibly expedite and speed up that process. Places that are considered cannabis deserts, they've looked into doing that in some of the cold cultivation areas just because some of the cultivators areas have been decimated so hard where it was something where they had a thriving community not more than say 7 years ago, and then it's dried up because there really is there was no other industry that was as good for that particular community, whether it be because that was the culture there or that's because the conditions were perfect for that, or a combination of both.
Find out.
Yep. Okay, so I've only got a couple more things to discuss. Okay, so good news for veterans. The Veteran Equal Access Act has been approved by the Veterans Affairs Committee, and Senate Appropriation Committee has also recently adopted a new change that would allow doctors to recommend cannabis and asylum as a alternative treatment for PTSD and other things for veterans.
Great.
So it just has to get to the Senate and the House, so we still got some time, but the fact that the Appropriations Committee has approved those changes is a huge
And so before this, when you asked something about cannabis to your doctor, they would just say, well,
right, they still can now, both the veterans.
I've actually felt myself educating a couple of my doctors. Well, no, you can actually use this. And they're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
And they like write the name.
But now the fact that that has been kind of given that A-OK, that'll obviously give some good things for veterans for access. And that's a really big step because honestly, that was some of the spirit of 215 in the original things and for other states in their push.
And when we say 215, we mean Prop 215, which was basically what created medical cannabis, and that's what changed to Prop 64. So now we have recreational cannabis, and we have all the fun we have now, which of course is great to go and buy all the fun stuff, but we're still regulated and licensed.
Right, and that's just a very short, because there are, Marcursa, OMA, all these. There's enough acronyms to drive you crazy.
Oh, aren't there though?
Okay, and then last but certainly not least, we're going to talk about our good friends from Pew Research. They have just put out a study saying that only 10% of Americans reject cannabis legalization in all forms. Even Republicans, 84%.
That means 90% almost.
Yes, 84% of Republicans agree that medical marijuana should be accessible to all people. Now, granted, they do not say the same for recreational. That drops to 45%, but that's at least a huge step in the same direction that it should be going. Democrats was 97% from that same research study for medical, and 65% for any sort of recreational and adult use.
Well, eventually, the money's going to talk, I think.
But it's just good to see that that seems to be the biggest percentage of population that was not necessarily on board with cannabis consumption for medical and recreational. Surprise, surprise, over the age of 75.
And they're the ones that should be using it for all their aches and pains.
Give grandma some topicals, she will smile, and all of a sudden her life will change.
I turned my 80-year-old dad on to topicals.
Topicals
and he was
are
all
the
about it. I was having
for
to
the
ship stuff to
elderly,
Texas.
for
But growing up in Texas, growing up in a conservative state, I never ran into non-stoners. I mean, every party you went to, people smoked weed. I mean, I remember one time it was April Fool's Day at the place I worked, and somebody put a little note out that said they would need to have like a drug screening to get the insurance policy as a joke. And it was the quietest explosion I've ever heard. I mean, people were just being called into each other's offices, and the groups got bigger, and you would see a group going in one office to the other, and eventually they just sent a whole group, a delegation to the owner to complain. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was all a big joke. But it just showed me, it's like, wow, all these like mom and pop, people that are working here, they're token too, and they don't want to go through that drug testing.
See, funny enough, this is reminding me a little bit of Stern Grove last year. Wolf Les was playing there, and all of a sudden the guy's out on the top of the stage like, and we need to remind y'all not to be smoking around here. And the hearty grandpa laughs that came out over there was just hysterical. My personal favorite, there must have been a man, and he had a little birthday hat, so it was my 99th birthday, and he had a joint going, it was being pushed around. I'm like, I want to be that man.
I want to be that 99-year-old man.
I want someone to put a party hat on me and just have a joint hanging the whole time.
Okay, well, so I understand we have some live listeners. Thanks for joining
Yeah,
in.
thanks for
We're
having
super happy to be here. I'm DJ Tank. I'm here with Veronica Guevara. We're talking about cannabis news and culture. What else? Do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it for right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you. Okay, so next up on my cavalcade of performers and stars, please welcome to the stage, Scrumbly Coldwin. Come on, Scrumbly. Well, welcome, sir.
Why, I'm happy to be here.
I am so glad you're here. You're involved with some obscure performance group. Who are they called? Who are they? They were popular for a little while.
The Rockettes.
The Rockettes, but with their dicks out, so they'd be called.
Oh, rock with your dicks out.
It'd be Cockettes.
Yeah.
Yes, Scrumbly is one of the original Cockettes. If you don't know what the Cockettes are, the Cockettes were a theatrical troupe who were born in the summer of '69, Summer of Love. It lasted about how long?
No, New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
A few months after.
69 to 70.
Okay.
Lasted about 2 minutes. No, we lasted until the last official show was due August of 71. And no, of 72.
Okay.
But then follow it with Vice Palace, which starred Divine, and essentially that was still a Cockettes show.
Right.
Because most of the Cockettes were.
And then after that, you went off and did other things. You were in the Jesters, you were in a lot of other performance groups, and then eventually around.
I had a great group called the Distractions.
Distractions. Okay. What was that like?
That was new wave a cappella.
Okay. I have not heard of this.
Yeah, we played at the Hotel Utah in a place called Chez Jacques on California High.
Mm-hmm.
Small places, and then we ran a show on Broadway for 6 months.
Oh, really? On Broadway?
Broadway, San Francisco.
Oh, well, that Broadway. I live by Broadway. It's always very nurturing for my soul when I'm like on the bus that goes, next up, Broadway. And I'm like, oh, I made it.
Oh, the Chi-Chi
But then they changed the Scott to Vallejo, and it's not the same. From Broadway to
Right,
Vallejo,
right.
there's the name of my autobiography. But about 2003, there was more interest in the Cockettes that came up because of the documentary.
Right. Yep.
And then
that was a big infusion.
And it was a big infusion. And then, of course, you teamed with Russell Blackwood to create the
Revivals.
The revivals.
Revivals of the shows, and actually put them together into full-fledged shows.
Yes, I was at every one of them.
With all original music.
All original music.
So we didn't have to hassle with, well, I just enjoyed writing it, but we didn't.
Well, that always helps.
It saved us hassling with any copyright.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, for somebody who's been producing shows for 13 years or so, and some queen does a number that you've recorded, and all of a sudden you put it on YouTube, and they just zap it all out.
Yeah.
And so all that kind of stuff. So it's always great to have your own original material, definitely. And so basically, Pearls Over Shanghai debuted, was it 2010, 2011?
2009.
Oh, okay.
2009, actually in New York City at the end of 2008 was a couple of performances.
Well, I remember seeing it. They played forever here. It was a giant hit. It kept on being held over.
Yeah.
And then that led to this group called the Thrill Peddlers, and they recreated several of the shows throughout the years, right?
Yeah, Thrill Peddlers existed since about 2006.
Right, and they were doing the Grand Guignol.
Yeah, Grand
all that kind
Guignol
of-
and Ridiculous Theater, which
right.
made them think, aha, Cockettes. When they saw the film, and when they saw Pam's book, Midnight at the Palace, when they saw that come out.
Right.
And
that Sweet Pam.
yeah, Sweet Pam, and Russell got the idea. Well, why don't we? Does anybody know them? Let's see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And it just went from there.
Well, and it turned out Russell Blackwood was a giant Cockettes fan too.
Yeah.
So that all was a great union. And then that ended around 2000. I forget what year that the.
2017 was the last show
Right.
of that series.
And then for me, after that, I ran into Jim Jeske, and he was like, there are a lot of Thrill Peddlers that are wanting to perform. And at that time, I was doing shows with Birdie and Bambi, and so he asked you to be in our show, and then that just started our collaboration with that on that level.
Yeah.
And then came 2019, and we were getting ready to have the celebration for the 50th anniversary, and that's when I jumped on as producer for the Cockettes.
Yeah.
Which that was a crazy fun time.
The show, the Cockettes.
Yes, the Cockettes are called Cockettes Are Golden. And that show was a giant blockbuster sellout. So it was a point of.
So we have the various incarnations of it since then. The Cockettes Are Golden, the 50th anniversary.
After 50, they're golden.
Had Everybody was there. I mean,
Everybody, and including some people that had been dead for a few years, I think.
Yeah.
They just, there was so much energy they showed up.
so we had the Cockettes, we're going the Cockettes Eternal Emissions, the
Right.
Cockettes Eternal Emissions 2,
In Oakland,
and Cockettes Resurrection.
which was last Easter.
And everything cock that we can think of.
You know, Cockettes. It's a great name.
And now for the New York, we're doing the Cockettes' Second Coming.
With you? Yes.
The first time we came to New York, by the way, the original Cockettes audiences created the biggest cannabis club ever.
Just by being there.
Yeah, because the whole auditorium, it was the Palace Theater, which is almost as big as the Castro Theater.
Okay.
And, or was.
So when the Cockettes were doing their shows, basically what would happen? What would it be like? It'd be like regular
Lots of
theater?
smoke.
Lots of smoke.
Lots of smoke, jugs of wine being passed, those big gallo things.
Right.
People screwing in the aisles and stuff like that.
You know, John Waters said that sometimes the actual audience was scarier than anything went on stage.
Yes.
and so basically, yes. Now we're going off. So basically, the Cockettes, we're calling it Second Coming because the very first time was the legendary,
the
opening
New
night
York
flop.
opening, the biggest off-Broadway opening in New York history. Everybody was there except the governor, Rockefeller, who came the second night.
Ah, he saw a better show.
Oh my!
So what happened that first
they knew
night?
what to expect.
Right.
We had been hyped to the point of it being ridiculous.
It was Rex Reed that was your big.
Well, yeah, and
Trumpeter.
Rex Reed and along with Truman Capote, they saw the show in San Francisco,
Right.
which had the audience.
Right. It had the whole feel of it.
Which
right.
is half of the show was the audience.
Right.
And it's the energy that's between the audience and the people on stage in a sort of conspiracy of celebration and jubilation. And we were not about professional theater. We were
Right. This was not Broadway.
We were anti-professional theater
Right.
on purpose.
Right. And so they're showing up thinking it's going to be something like Annie Get Your Gun, but for hippies.
Well, nobody bothered to get the New York audience prepared for that.
So they just it had to be something similar to that movie, The Producers, where they do Springtime for Hitler, and it cuts to the audience and all their jaws are open.
Yeah, I think the producers, they purposefully wanted to lose money for some reason, so they could cover their,
Oh, right, with investment or insurance
Right.
and stuff like that. But and what is it that Angela Lansbury did she actually say that?
No.
No, she didn't say that. I can't sit. What's it she's supposed to have
Well,
said?
she said something like, "Get me out of here,"
Oh, okay. I've heard other
and
things.
that was
more
when
profanity.
somebody was doing a mock oral sex number on Pam, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, while she was singing. And,
Just couldn't take that.
sure,
It was just too. That was her breaking
no, they
point.
couldn't take it.
Well, that's an older generation too. For them, hair was edgy.
Hair was edgy. They were looking for a new hair, actually.
I think so
But
too.
not to that point. We were like punk rockers.
Right.
We
You weren't even because punk hadn't even happened
punk,
yet.
but using music of the 20s and 30s.
Right.
And my original tunes too.
Right.
Other lyrics of the collaborators wrote.
And a lot of your shows are based on the music and the sound from the 1930s musicals. That's the thing that Hibiscus was really into. That was your cup of tea, which me too. I grew up on all
It
that
was
stuff.
just before there was a huge sort of nostalgia, it was called back then, but everybody was into Art Deco, both with and the old movies. Busby Berkeley.
Right,
was
I remember
huge.
that. I mean, because as a kid watching shows, you would see like the Carol Burnett show, and they would do a whole thing about like silent movies or all
Right.
that. I remember that there being that resurgence of that love for the old cinema.
Yeah, the glamour and everything about it.
Oh yeah, Theta Bara and all
And
that
the camp.
glamour.
I mean, it was outrageous
Oh, yeah.
camp, and
Plus, what I was told, you could also find all those clothes in thrift stores for really cheap.
yeah.
So it wasn't like it is now, where there's like a whole thrift world, and they know all the collectible stuff and
For a
everything. It was
few
just
years.
junk. Yeah.
For a few years, you could do that.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, so we're going back to New York, and we're performing we're at Joe's Pub, which is like the premier cabaret night spot in Manhattan.
Right.
And we're going to be doing Second Coming on September 9th at 9:30 p.m.
Right.
If we can make it there. And so that's one of the things we're doing right now is we're going through the fundraising part of it. I'm the producer, so I get to do a lot of that fun kind of thing. But I'm wearing one of our fundraising things. This is the T-shirt. This is Hibiscus. Hibiscus was the very first one that started it all. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, it was totally his thing.
Yeah. And how did you meet Hibiscus?
He gathered, huh?
How did you meet Hibiscus?
He used to come over. I mean, we'd see him out and about, and we'd go to the midnight movies where we first premiered ourselves, and meet there. And he'd be in Golden Gate Park. He'd come down the street. He got wind of wasn't exactly a commune, but our group of people living communally.
Right.
You know, it wasn't organized like where he lived. And he'd come over and he'd bake bread, things like that. We'd go to the Stud.
The Stud
Bar was the place to go every night, just about.
Oh my gosh. And so from that, so anyway, yeah, so now that this is Hibiscus, so this is our fundraiser. If you are interested in getting a fundraising t-shirt or finding more about fundraising, you can contact me, djdanksf@gmail.com. That's and we'll be having a fundraiser August 8th, 9th. August,
yes.
No, I'm sorry, August 2nd, I'm sorry. I have so many dates in my head right now coming out of Pride. I'm doing a bunch of shows, and I got to get them mixed up nice and
It's the
easily.
one at the Stork Club in Oakland.
That'll be August 2nd at the Store Club in
August
Oakland. And then we have July 9th at the Cinch from 4 to 8. We're going to have a piano sing-along. We're going to have a silent auction. We're going to have Jello shots. We're going to be selling T-shirts and Cockette stickers and all kinds of fun stuff. I'm looking forward to that. I know we'll be giving. I know from the silent auction we'll be having a jacket done by Billy Bauer. And Billy Bowers, sorry. And he is a designer who was part of the original Cockette era.
Well, yeah, I mean, not original. It was called the Dirty Dozen.
Right.
And they only stayed for everybody stayed intact for about a year.
And then he went on to
Until it
design.
started turning over.
And then he went on to design like stuff for like Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones and all these rock stars.
Todd
Rundgren and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So he actually, you'll see if you go to Canada, if you go to a Cockette's event, you'll see a lot of people wearing these like really ornate jackets with all these things, all these memento things and pictures, everything all just sewn in there, and that's Billy Bowers. Now, so a friend of mine has one of those. We're going to put that up as part of the silent auction. Gooch, who is one of our photographers here in town, he's done 2 photo shoots of the Cockettes, and he's offering a frame signed photo. And then, of course, tomorrow I'll be going to all the different neighborhood stores asking for, whatever donations we can get to do that. And if you would like to be part of the silent auction or the raffle or anything, or help the Cockettes raise money to go to New York, again, contact me, you know where, djdanksf@gmail.com.
This really does convey, through the music, we're conveying the same flavor, the same outrageous energy that the Cockettes created.
Oh, definitely, and it's just on a different, kind of different level.
Yeah,
it's a little bit more like spruced up, and it's one of
we enjoy doing it. It's all original.
It's all original, and this is the man that wrote most all the music. And one of the things that I've completely lost my brain thought on that, but it'll come to me in a minute. But let's see, anything else I wanted to talk to you about? Are you going to be donating any memorabilia?
I've got some newly acquired memorabilia from that was passed on from Creamer Ritz.
Oh, great!
And so I'm going to be going through that and seeing what we can bring. I can autograph anything you want.
Oh, well, there you go. And we'll be doing some piano singing along. I think Kitten on the keys will be there. You'll be there. We're just going to do some fun playing around. People can come and sing songs. I'm sure we're doing some performances. And yeah, it's just about like trying to raise money and create community. I'm really excited about all the things we're doing to get us there and then beyond. I see that if we can get on the New York stage, because one of the things we have been doing is that that's why I read my thought, is that we were taking all these songs that we're singing, that are being done in the show, they were once part of shows. They were once integral to plots.
Right.
And we've taken all the plot out and just kept the music.
Yeah, it's like a review of music from Cockettes.
Because I really think that your songs are strong enough to stand up against Irving Berlin or any of these other famous songwriters of the era. I just think in the era they couldn't write about that. They would like to they would love to write about butt munching, and maybe they did in their own circles when they were having drinks with their friends, but it wasn't something they were doing on stage openly.
Not openly, yes.
Yeah, definitely. So, but that's one of the things that I love about what we've done is created this kind of cabaret show with the strength of the songs, and I think that the humor and the stories are so integrated into the songs that it reads really easily. They don't have to know the rest of the plot. They kind of get the idea from the song.
Yeah. Some of them are they'll stand on their own. They'll just stand on their own.
Do you have a personal favorite?
Oh gosh.
My personal favorite, as you always know, is Midnight in Manhattan. That's my favorite.
Well, that's probably the most popular of the songs and most beautiful. I think
It's beautiful.
The melody of it and everything.
Oh, definitely.
It's definitely nice.
Yeah, hope they love it in New York.
But I like the strange ones, like Too Decadent for You.
Well, Too Decadent for You is one of my favorites as well, as you well know, because that song is filthy. It is hilariously so. It's always fun to watch people's reactions to those kind of
Well,
songs.
somebody I know from Thrill Peddlers that's heavily into kink, he said, boy, you really nailed the essence of what it is, to be a dom or a sub.
Yeah, those Kingsters.
Yeah.
Now, are you a Kingster yourself?
Oh, I've dabbled.
Sure. We're in the Bay Area, and considering the era that you were there in, I'm sure you
You
did.
gotta try everything at least once.
At least once, and you have to try the second time to make sure your decision was correct.
Yeah, easily.
And so what else is going on with you? I know you had a show you just did recently.
I teach at Stagebridge, which is for older people. You have to be 50 to get in. And we put together a musical. This is the third one that we've written. The students help write it. And then my director, collaborator, Joanne Grimm, and I write the script of the music, the songs.
Wow.
And so we put this all together. And we've got a really talented group.
That's so great.
Seniors. And so we performed it just this past, on the 18th.
And are you still doing, are you still teaching?
I do the classes, Stagebridge, yes.
Oh, okay. Weren't you a home teacher as well?
Oh yeah, I do that occasionally.
Good money?
Well, I don't charge the full, the going rate is about 100. I'm less than that.
Oh, okay. And so, do you have anything else besides going to New York and raising all this money to get us there and back? Do you have any other goals going on? Anything coming up?
Well, there's a play that I'm working on, an original musical with Cap Kobe, who was part of Thrill Peddlers.
I know Cap.
And it's about a ventriloquist and the dummy, and of course the ventriloquist has to go mad.
Well, as they seem to.
And the dummy is the way he expresses his softer side.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have that coming up on the horizon after New York.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun doing all the Coquette stuff with you. I can't tell you, it's an honor for me to be able to do something where I saw something and it meant so much to me, and then to become part of it. And not only that, but it will help be able to be the creative force behind it too. It really means a lot to me. But thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming to the debut of the show. And so how can people get hold of you?
Get a hold of me?
Yeah, if they want to. Follow you on Facebook. Is it the best way
follow
to
me.
stalk you?
Yeah, they can follow me.
They want to cyber stalk you?
They can do me on Facebook and just do a direct message. That's
Okay. Scrumbly Coldwin.
easiest way. Scrumbly Coldwin. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Scrumbly.
Easy.
Okay, everybody, give it up for Scrumbly Coldwin. Okay. Bringing up next is now we're going to do a little community profile of stoners in our neighborhood and community. So Pickles, get on up here. And you can't wear the mask. We can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
I know. Well, bring it on. Well, let's see. Let's experiment. Let's experiment. We'll find out. Come on up, Pickles. Let's go ahead and try.
Give it up for Pickle.
Give it up for Pickles. Everybody. Come on. Okay.
I should grab an ashtray, huh?
I'll
I got
get you an
Pickles.
ashtray.
I
You
got
sit
you.
down to be on the show. That's what we're here
Everybody's
for.
got you.
There you go. We got you. Just tell them what you need. So welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You have to really speak up.
Okay, I will speak loud.
That would help a lot.
Heck yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much. And I take it you're a stoner.
Yes.
Great.
I'll
So.
say I am.
Right. Well, you're sitting there with a joint in your fingers. I'm thinking you might be a stoner.
Yeah.
Something's telling me. So you tell me. Describe yourself.
Thank you.
How do you want people to know you? What's your? Give yourself an intro.
Well,
Tell me right now.
my name is Pup Pickles, and I'm a wayward transsexual pup, queer faggot. I hope I'm allowed to say that word.
Yes, you may.
And yeah, I think that's a good way of describing myself.
Okay.
I can elaborate in any capacity you want me to.
No. Go ahead and okay. So Tell me, when was the first time you ever got stoned? What was do you have a story behind that?
I was living in Baltimore, but I came out to Berkeley. I will not say the age, but it was a young one.
Right.
And my cousin took me to this place by the water, and it has all this like cool blocky kind of like I think they're like probably parts of an old building, and like gave me a drag of a joint, which was...
Did it hit you?
Yeah, well, it was so little in comparison to what I smoke now, and I was stoned, so yes.
But see, my first time I didn't get stoned. I thought I was, but I didn't know.
Maybe maybe I wasn't, but I thought I was.
So, like for me, I was about 13, I guess, and my best friend was sent to military school because I was a bad influence. And when he came back, he was a bad influence because he came back with weed. And so I remember us going out to his family's farm, and we were smoking it in my car. And the only reference I had to weed and weed at all was Cheech and Chong. So I remember all I could say was, "That's some good weed." I mean, that was the extent of my being stoned at that point, the very first time.
My parents were deadheads, so I kind of
See, I grew up in a whole different
knew
world.
about it, but
Right.
like didn't really know.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up on the East Coast in Baltimore, and then a little bit south of Atlanta, and then came to SF when I was 17.
Wow, okay.
And then I really started smoking weed then, and got my medical card when I was 18, back when that was a thing. And that's when I kind of really started to get into like probably identifying as a stoner or
Right.
whatever.
So one of the things you do is you are the stage manager and help me out with our shows here and all the different shows and everything, and you're always in your pub outfit and
Yes.
everything. So what are people's reactions to you in the way you dress? Are people intimidated? Are they interested?
By dress, do you mean like
When you have
whole
when
shebang?
you have your whole shebang on and you're going around being in your pub gear?
Well, so a pup that I work with, Pup Fleur, shout out to Pup Fleur, he talked to me one time and he was like, I mean, people kind of like look at you and like expect to get a reaction, but obviously you're wearing the hood out for a reason, and like you're probably gonna, like, I don't know, he was saying like you're probably seeking attention if you're wearing this, like chances are, so like expect to get that attention and like not be intimidated by it. Some people like seem scared, but then most of the time people are just really curious, and sometimes people say things and ask questions, and I just like being honest with them and telling them whatever I feel in the moment.
Of course. So how long have you been a pup?
Well,
And what made you get to be a pup?
well,
What
because
intrigued you?
I work at Mr. S Leather where they do puppy stuff.
Right.
And,
Mr. F Leather is a very famous leather company store here in San Francisco.
Yeah, and they do a lot of puppy stuff, and I like their freebin, and they gave me this hood, and then I started becoming like a puppy, and it felt really nice to like have a alternative persona that I could explore, especially, just like in such an open space like San Francisco. I felt confident, because I wouldn't necessarily feel confident to do something like this where I lived before.
And so this is part of what would be basically the BDSM community, right?
Yeah, this is, so like pup play is a headspace for some people, and for others it can be like a lifestyle, and then for others it can be like more specifically towards sex, geared towards sex, or like role play.
Right.
You can get like a butt plug tail.
I've seen
you
those.
can get like you can get collars. Right now I'm just wearing like a very basic collar, but
Does that signify anything, or is it just a bone?
so
Sometimes
like,
a bone's just
a lot of the time, if you see like a locked collar, that's more signaling that you are a puppy and that someone has like you have a handler and someone has collared you and like you're their puppy. But a lot of times, if you see something like this, it can be more indicative of just like I'm a puppy, but I'm like a solo pup, and that's what it is for me. It's like.
Yeah, my first exposure to the puppies was I would go to the different street fairs, and you would go to the puppy play area.
Yeah.
And you would just sit there and play with them. And you're right though. Everybody had their own little bag going what they liked and what they wanted to do.
Like some people want to get with other puppies and like roll around, and some people just want to be at like a bar and like not have all the attention on them in terms of like what their appearance is behind the mask, and they just want to like bark at people or like
I mean, I think in the full spectrum of the LGBT of the BDSM community, it's one of the sweeter softer sides of the community. I think from my point of view, I'm sure there are other puppies that do a lot of other different things. As I mean, to each their own.
There is definitely
Are there different communities within the puppy community?
Absolutely, like there is a large facet of puppies that want to be like good boys and like have people be like, you're a good boy. And then there's puppies who are like, I'm a bad dog, ruff ruff. And then there's puppies who are like, I'm a service pup, and that means that like, when you want me to go get the newspaper, I'll go get the newspaper for you, and like, I'll go fetch whatever you want me to, la da da da.
Which makes you a great,
I would say I'm
stage manager.
Service orientated pup for sure.
Definitely. And so, tell me more about the pup culture. What would you consider your grouping?
I don't know. I'm a pretty solo pup. Like I really grew up.
Are there other trans pups?
I would say, from my observation, the majority of the community is like cis, gay men. That's a large majority of the pup community, but that's not anyone can be a pup.
Right.
So there's definitely aspects of it that are more queer focused and like more inclusive towards trans puppies or non-binary puppies. And then some, it's just it's similar to queer culture in that way. Like sometimes you'll go to a party and it will be like, oh, awesome, I see all the other transsexuals.
Okay.
I feel at home. And then sometimes you're like, well, this is not my scene. And I feel like it's similar with puppy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But for the most part, I feel like puppies can be one of the more open groups, like you said.
So, I'm going to ask you the difficult question here, because you're a puppy.
Right.
Why do you own a cat?
Okay, well, so my puppy,
I think you have a puppy.
My pup-sona is similar to like my gender expression and identity, which is like I definitely under this mask present pretty masculine.
It does, I agree.
Default. But like I feel like I exude a lot of feminine energy that at this point in my life I'm really happy doing.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not always comfortable doing. And then similar to puppiness, like I kind of identify as a cat too, and I really like being a cat.
Now, is there a cat sub-genre as well as puppies?
There is a cat
Or
culture.
they just stay under the bed and hiss the
There
whole
is
time?
a cat culture, but it's often associated with people who are more femme-presenting. Not always true.
I've seen the bunnies, I've seen all the different
And
animals,
there's
but I've never
cat
seen a
boys.
cat.
There's definitely cat boys, but it's not like Mr. S is selling cat
I was going to say, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, the niche for that hasn't really become as visible.
Well, because if you're a cat person, you're just too picky.
Well, we like cats. We're not as like.
It's like George Carlin said, he's like, fuck that, I'm a cat.
Well, it's kind of like.
You need to go do that, go talk to the dog.
Yeah, the person at the party that's like kind of like, observant of what's going on, and maybe like a little intentionally like aloof, just to like give off that. But I think that cats are very deep down. Like,
so if somebody's
stuff.
watching this and they're all intrigued about how they can become a puppy, what do you think they should do?
It depends what part of puppyhood they want to get into.
Like if they wanted to just to dip their toe into it, what should they do?
Well,
should they go to the Eagle?
Yeah, there's various pup parties around the city.
Okay.
The Eagle is definitely a place that has a frolic, which is
Frolic, right? Frolic's been going on for a while too.
Yeah, it's not pup exclusive, but
it's furries as well, right?
Yeah, furries and just anyone who kind of does like animal or pet play or kind of wants to explore that kind of stuff is more than welcome to go on Frolic Night, and we'll get, in my opinion, a good representation of a variety of people coming from different parts of the
And not all pups have the same outfit. Some just wear the nose, some just wear with the ears.
Yeah, and some people don't want to wear a hood at all. I mean, there's people who you'll see out on the street, like that's wearing a collar, not a hood, and you can just tell that they're a puppy because they have a puppy collar on,
Okay. Yeah. So are you a millennial?
No.
No, what are you? What's your
technically I'm Gen Z.
Gen Z. Okay. So Gen Z point of view here. Anybody that's in the cannabis industry, we're going to get some insight. So when you walk into a cannabis store and you're going to buy weed, what influences you the most? Is it price? Is it the look of the packaging? Is it sponsorship? Is it the quality? What drives your choices when you go as a young pup coming into the cannabis store? What is it that draws you in? What are you looking for?
Prices are really a big factor. Like, it's hard to be in this city as like, a young queer and like, doing nightlife and stuff like that.
Well, and everything's so expensive to begin with.
Yeah, and this just city is so expensive, so price is definitely a big point, especially as someone who consumes a lot of weed. I'm always looking for like, what's the biggest amount that I can get for like the best price point. But then if I was like totally like a kid in a candy shop and someone gave me like a unlimited gift card, my like eye would first go to like all the flavored stuff, which I know is something that might be up in.
Like what kind of flavored?
Well, I like when you can like taste that like this like nicely dipped and like fused joint tasting.
Oh, infused, yes,
like watermelon,
of course.
or like Jolly Ranchers.
Oh yeah.
But I heard that might not be a thing anymore. Like, they might have to stop doing that.
Well, you never know. I mean, people are always complaining because they're always afraid it's all for the children and everything. But I mean, if they're going to get into anything, they're going to get into anyway. But But yeah, I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. So you're.
Find out.
But are you beholden to any brand? Or do you have a favorite? Or are you a sativa or an indica pup?
I must smoke whatever is put in front of me, pup.
You're right. Thank you for the weed pup.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck yeah, weed. But if I was a kid in a candy shop and I had an unlimited gift card, I think I would be going for the hybrid leaning towards sativa, or maybe even if I was feeling really like into like self-care and stuff, I would want to go for the one-to-one, like CBD, as someone who does experience chronic illness and pain, and that would be really lovely.
Yeah, CBD is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like that's a nice little treat when I get that.
Do you have a current flavor, a current favorite strain?
Coriander pickles.
Oh.
The yet to be discovered.
Is that going to be? Yeah, I keep on telling people that I want to have the DJ Dank strain done. But they're like, "Well, where's your $20,000?" I'm like, "Well, I came up with the name. You come up with the money." I just thought they could magically just make one.
I would say a really good solid for me, and I think it's hybrid sativa, but I feel like it's probably indica. But I think Girl Scout cookies is a very good.
Oh, Girl Scout cookies is one of my jams.
So
That's one of my favorites.
If someone asks me that question, that's usually what I go to.
For me too. For me, anything that says cookies. If it says cookies, I know that it's probably going to come from that strain.
I'm now just thinking too, when I lived in Santa Cruz, for sure sativa that would like always Jack Herrera.
Jack Herrera is like one of the strongest good sativas.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I did not really discover sativas until I was always an indica girl until COVID, and then I realized, ooh, wait a minute, I can't do 2 years of just doing indica all the time. It's not working out. And so I started experimenting with sativas, and I discovered Jack Herrera, and that changed my life. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's like really good. I like drawing. I just like sitting around and like.
And it has that certain smell too.
Yeah, drawing.
You can always tell when it's not good Jack Herrera. It's like, yes, ain't that.
It stimulates.
I'm sure your puppy senses can tell that.
Well, and it stimulates creativity. I feel like very nice for me.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming up and hanging out with us. And I guess we're going to be seeing you on, I believe it'll be July 8th at the next Bongo Bingo, Drag Cannabis Bingo with the Pristine Condition, myself, and Brandy Licious from 6 to 9.
Heck yeah. I can't wait.
Cannabis prizes. We get a great group. It's really fun.
Yeah.
We give out candy. We have mocktails. What's your favorite part?
I think that it's when people get really like into the game and you can watch and from afar.
And they get all serious.
Yeah, and like I love the moment too. Like I know this is maybe like a little like ha 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 meme, but like I love when people think they have bingo and then they don't. And
but that's the whole thing. You got to give credit to these poor people. It's a bunch of freaking stoners who are like smoking weed and they're like, "What number?"
Well, yeah, no, totally.
That's what we've gotten into the habit of repeating things multiple times.
It would be me, which is why I like a part of me doesn't feel so bad about like laughing about it.
Oh
like,
no,
yep, that's part of it.
And they feel so bad. They're like, no, it happens all the time. Trust me, it's like more times than it doesn't. Especially if you give them anything that's not a regular bingo.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, you could sit there and chisel their forehead and they still would not get it right. It's so funny.
I mean, it would just become a funny joke
souls.
if they did it one person did every single round. It would be a win-win.
A win-win. Okay, well then we'll see you then. Thank you so much. Okay,
for
everybody, give it up for Pickles. We go from a puppy to a wolf.
Yeah, there it is.
Taylor, come on up.
Yeah.
Please welcome Taylor Wolf from Manzanita Naturals. Taylor has a love of the pups.
Oh, that's a good one.
Are you a pup yourself?
I'm wolf.
You're a wolf. Okay.
Wolf.
You have an outfit and everything?
Potentially.
Potentially?
Yeah, you may have seen me. You never know. I could have been standing right next to you.
You could have been, who
Yeah.
knows? I don't know these things.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you.
I see you're drinking one of your own beverages.
I am stoked that when I was gifted
Yes.
a bag of goodies and treats, this happened to be in it. Because I didn't think to bring it with me. Yes.
Well, I will say this though, that cola is one of my favorite colas on the market.
Thank
I mean,
you.
you know, ever since then, it's always been the one I go to every time. I've never had anything any better than that.
We got the High Times 2022 Northern California edible first place on the cola, which was exciting.
That cola is amazing, and when when they come here and do the mocktails, I always get like the Rob Roy or the Sweet Templar or whatever.
Yeah,
with the grenadine and the cherry and the 10 milligrams of silliness.
There is now a 100 milligram version of this that is currently making its way out. It passed compliance. It's now on the vans, waiting to.
And one soda.
One soda.
Now, can you do 100 milligrams?
I cannot, but my co-founder, who you know well, Aaron,
Yeah.
who helped with the whole upstart of this company, is a daily 100 milligram.
100 milligrams. Yeah. I kind of floated off that far off the floor for a while.
Quick anecdote on that. The time I chose to do 80 milligrams, we were working with a legacy grower up in Hopland, who you might know, Antler.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing a Southern sweet tea, and we had made it 101 milligrams because his farm's right off 101. We're gonna produce it the next day, so on my way back, I'm one freeway exit away, and I'm like, we're gonna produce this. I gotta try it, just to make sure it's safe. There were no 180 milligram anythings out there.
No.
So I throw it back. It's late at night. I'm like, by the time I get home, it's gonna feel great. I'll go to sleep immediately.
Right.
Our facility at that point, which we were also living in, is in East Oakland, and it starts to hit me right as I'm approaching the block where our building is, and I turn the corner and there's 6 cop cars in front of our building with the sirens on.
Oh my God.
Only time I've ever done 80 milligrams, and the next 1 hour was the most surreal.
I bet you the anxiety was like your eyes were bugging out of your head.
We thought it was a fake break-in at the facility, only to find out the next day it was a real break-in, but we didn't really discover it at the moment. So
Wow, because you're tripping.
Yeah, exactly. Exciting time.
So I first met you guys standing outside of the Stud back in 2016, I believe. It was you and the Wolf Pack. There were 3 of you. Aaron, and Damien, right?
Diesel.
And I remember you guys coming in. You always were dressed to the nines, looking cool and hot, coming into the Stud for Puff. And you guys you were one of the first companies that donated to Puff to help create the community of cannabis that we were doing, and you guys did it a lot. I can probably think of like a good 3 or 4 dozen people that had their first soda cannabis experience with one of your sodas at outside the Stud in that alley.
Yeah. Other than Keith in the United States, I think we were the first ones to put it in a liquid medium. They were experimenting with it in Colorado, and we were in California, both trying different, and we were having mild amounts of success and separation, all of that. We kind of came into the marketplace about the same time.
And if I remember correctly, before that, you guys were making soda pop down the street.
You remember well.
I do. What was that place called? Emporium? What was it called?
It was called The Fizzery.
The Fizzery.
Are you getting it now?
Yeah, the Fizzery. See, nothing changes that much.
This feels very full circle because we were 25th in Mission.
Right.
And that's actually where the company started. We were doing the soda pop and candy shop in the front, and we were experimenting with edibles for the first time in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And we started with confections like chocolate and gummies, knowing we wanted to work our way toward beverage.
Mm-hmm.
But while we were working out our emulsions and oils and separation, a way to make it most effective product, we started with something that wasn't going to be our mainstay.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we figured it out, we went all in on the drinks.
So, in all this stuff, what is it? What's your part? What's your specialty?
Definitely on the development of the products, doing the flavor mixing, the chemistry, making sure it's shelf stable, tastes good, is effective.
And where'd you get that experience?
It's a long arc, actually, and it goes all the way back to Dennis Perone. 1996,
Mm-hmm.
I was a student at UC Santa Cruz and was introduced to Dennis Perone up in the city, and we would come up through Dave Smith, a fellow who I ended up being building mates with in Santa Cruz at the UC. We would come up and serve chai tea specifically, to all the patrons at the Market Street Buyer Club on the weekends. And so that sort of became my go-to side hobby, which was making drinks for the Buyers Club and also bringing DJ tables and doing music from Friday till Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought it back to Santa Cruz and started a non-medicated tea company, selling it to natural food stores, restaurants, cafes, things like that. And flash forward, we launched a cola brand called Taylor's Tonics. We had a chai cola, which then begat the Fizzery soda shop, which then begat the Fizz, and that's the recipe from the Taylor's Tonic Chai Cola with a slight reduction in the chai, but it's now a 16-year-old formula.
Wow.
So when High Times picked that as our first award product, they didn't know the background on it.
No.
It was very validating.
Oh, I bet.
That's our legacy product right there.
So what is the flavor of cola actually?
Fast, good question. It's vanilla, lime, cinnamon, clove, cola nut. Those are the primaries. And you can play around with a little bit more citrus or a little bit more spice. And ours happens to have cardamom and nutmeg as well.
Well, I do love it. It's so good. And so after, I mean, you know, of all the people that have been part of Puff, and you guys have been the most successful. I mean, you guys really took off, didn't you? What do you think did that?
I think taking off at this point is just sustaining. We've seen a lot of good brands that have disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
And I think early on we realized it was going to be a marathon. It was going to be a real trudge, and everything that we've done with our company is about keeping low overhead and sort of our eye on the prize. And again, the eye on the prize is simply to survive.
To survive. Well.
We keep a very small team. All of us are paid moderately by industry standards. We're way low on the spectrum, but the idea is we'd rather have that job and put out a good product than not have a company
And be able to
at
have
all.
consistent work.
Yeah.
Because that's the point. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, we're now on the drinks specifically 7 years in, and then we had 2 years ahead of that where we were doing gummies and chocolates.
You know, and also I think maybe it was that quickies too, because I mean, when I think back on it, that was the first thing I ever noticed. It was like the little thing that was 100 milligrams.
Yeah, we were the first high potency shot.
Yeah, because I remember you bringing those, and then I would give them to my performers, and they could be this, but oh my God, we did that whole thing, and we were like tripping all night.
There's a couple brands. The ultimate imitation is flattery, and you know, it doesn't rub us the wrong way because again, there's room for everybody if you're a good player in it. Who have virtually identical flavor offerings as us. They'll do the shots and they'll match all the different strains. They'll do the soda, they'll match all the different strains. We've had a couple of the proprietors, those just actually outright tell us, no, we looked at what you did, we're doing the same. We're like, wow, that's bull.
Well, it
Just
is.
say it to us.
Yeah,
That's
well.
one thing. Yeah, but I think it's a matter of hanging in, and you know, if we keep putting out a product that is highest quality and lowest or reasonable price, then I think we've got a good ability to stay put.
We have a good ethic. I mean, whenever we have Manzanita here for any of our shows, and they do mocktails, I mean, they just bring it up in style, and always like top notch quality.
Yeah, that's
good representation.
The whole brand ambassador team is super inspiring. I'm getting up there in years for that type of work, but I've been doing it since '96, doing the demos myself, being out there in the streets of festivals, everything, and I still like to dip my toe in it, but
not on a consistent basis.
Props to those that can, park their car, haul a demo table up to the front door, set it all up, do the work, get it back out, and come back again. I'm eternally grateful.
So you're a traveling man, right? You like to travel.
I do like travel.
Yeah, and so you went to Africa. What was the reason? What was all behind that? Was that just vacation?
Yeah, pretty much. It was a family trip. We pulled everybody together. That was nephews, grandparents, brothers, everybody. It was sort of the one big trip. My mother's the one who orchestrated that, and she has always been a teacher and has gone to Ghana, gone to Tanzania, gone to Kenya, and been an instructor at the elementary and middle school levels in science. And so this one, she brought us out, and I got to do a guest lecture at one of the grade schools. It was probably what's the equivalent of like 7th, 8th, 9th grade here on how to manufacture soda. I didn't talk about THC and infusion in the soda, but we went through the process because it was essentially a physics lesson of how to get water, temperature, pressure, CO2, ultimately resulting in a soda pop. And then we had the side lesson, which is you can either force carbonate like that, or you can ferment, like from ginger, and allow the natural carbonations and so on to happen.
Oh wow, okay.
And I think they went that route after I left. They were all diligently taking notes and followed up about all the specific ingredients to make a house fermented ginger beer.
Did you get any experience with cannabis culture there?
Very little, if any at all.
Any at all?
I can't even think of one. Yeah, not even pop culture style as far as t-shirts, hats. It was very limited, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Give it time.
Give it time. I was going to say, it's growth potential anywhere. And you also are a big pup fan, dog fan.
Yeah. Always have had pups around. We just finished fostering 3 that were Wiley Husky German Shepherd mixes, and they all went together to a house up in Arcata, which was
Okay.
great. So I'm actually without any right now, and it's hard.
I've had. I'm so used to that.
I had to go on
Pattern.
Google for the first, because they've always been overlap dogs that we've been fostering in and out, and this is the first time I've had 0, and I had to go on Google and like type search term like sadness after fostering or something, and it made me feel better about me just feeling like, oh, I miss them, because some of the posts on there were like, I haven't been able to go to work for 2 weeks because I haven't stopped crying since I gave up my foster. I'm like, okay, there's different levels of this.
You have to, there's that level of acceptance to know they're going on to something better and you're just helping them along, but still you miss the companionship and the sweetness.
Problem is, the minute I arrived on that property, they neglected to tell me that they had horses, and I let the dogs out of the car, and the mother of the 2 puppies started right into the horse pen and started chasing the horses. In the first 30 seconds of being on the property, I'm like, oh gosh, this is not going well. This is not going how I hope it. But they were chill with it and seemed to understand how to teach a dog not to chase horses.
So, but at Manzanita, you guys moved up to Santa Rosa. Is that?
Yeah. We did the leap. Historically, it was San Francisco to Sunset District, East Oakland, West Oakland, now Sonoma. So that's our stop for a while.
Things are stopped for a while.
Yeah. We have our own facility up there now.
Anything new in the pipe coming up?
Yes, we're kind of playing around different categories, so it won't only be beverage now.
That's what I heard.
Which I'm really excited about. The 100 milligrams on the soda side, and we have some new. We almost had an amazing Pride edition unicorn punch.
Oh wow!
It was delicious. It's on, but the can printer kind of missed their deadline.
Oh.
It would have been like a June 28th release. We were like, you know what?
Next time.
Yeah, May of 2024, our what's called Love Punch will be out. It's a nice lavender passion fruit punch.
I can't wait. I'm sure it's delicious.
It's a yummy one.
You enjoy making all the flavors and all that?
I do. Yeah. Right now we just did a whole review of the flavor. We never stopped. So I just took all the entire cookies line and did product by product improvements, just seeing, really evaluating where have we gotten to, what can we do to make it just that next level, and then processing all the way through. And I'm now working on our entire soda line.
That's awesome.
You would hear a fun Thrill Peddler
Of course
story.
I do.
So having Scrumbly,
Yeah.
they had one of the Thrill Peddler shows, which maybe you remember, you heard of it, was the Pearls Over Shanghai show.
Yes.
And I had heard that John Waters was potentially going to be there that night. It was Woody Tenderheart, and gave me the tip. Well, he's supposed to be here tonight. Absolutely arrived. There was me and Aaron, and the show was amazing. John Waters did not show up, and I don't think John Waters has done very many missteps in his life and career.
Mm-hmm.
Not showing up at this show was one of the John Waters missteps that was so on brand for him. The fact he wasn't there still surprised me. It's the one where halfway through the show, a car outside sheared off the fire hydrant, and if you remember, this is a subterranean theater.
Oh yeah.
So they stop the show, and somebody says, so I think we're all right. There seems to be a little bit of water coming in. We're not sure where it's from. We're going to figure this out, but let's go on with the show. Lights come up again. They're like, okay, we're up to about 6 or 7 inches of water. I think we're going to have to start focusing, because a lot of you are sitting on a lot of electrical cords over in this area, right? By the time we trudged out of the theater, it was probably 2 feet deep. They had everybody go up on the stage and out through the backstage and through the truck roll-up door.
Oh my gosh.
And when we got to there, the water probably went out 60 feet out in, and there was a sharply dressed SFPD who just kind of looked at us all and kind of went like this, like he was not going to go in the line. He was kind of like, come to me. Yeah,
Oh my God.
I couldn't have expected anything better from a Thrill Peddler cockhead show.
I guess not. Yeah. There's always a bit of lunacy, and you never knew what to expect.
Right.
So, what was the first time you ever got stoned? When was the first time you ever smoked weed?
I'd have to say that would have been junior high school, Grateful Dead show, LA Sports Arena.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a fun one.
Yeah, see, I grew up in Texas. Weed was just like, it was not even around that much. Like I said, I had a friend to bring it to me to even try it.
Yeah.
I was so intrigued by it. But
Well, I gotta believe it was still kind of ditch weed at that point. We're probably
Well,
pushing like
was, I
a
mean-
potent 8% or something like that. And we had the moment where one of my high school friends, who was also a bad influence and wasn't supposed
I
to
love
hang out with,
those.
so he was my favorite.
Of course.
We convinced ourselves we weren't feeling it till we realized we were just both giggling back and forth at each other, and then we did in fact feel
My
it.
memories from those days, remember like saving one big nug for the last, I'm going to save this nug, save the next one, and you popped it open and it just was like just seeds, just,
Seeds.
and it ended up on my little like Christmas tree, like Charlie Brown Christmas. I was like, oh man, that was going to get me through the last 2 days.
Yeah, I'd save the seeds.
Well, I didn't even think about that at that point. See,
Yeah.
you were already the entrepreneur then that you are
Well, I
now.
would draw. It was sort of that Johnny Appleseed style where I would save them and then just put them in places and hope that I'd come back and next to the high school baseball.
Somebody
field
told me there was a
would be
name for
plant.
that, where you just throw a bunch of seeds into like a vacant lot and then come back in a few months, or is
It's a
this
good
like-
idea.
Or a hope and a dream and a prayer or something. But
The
somebody was,
future.
when I first moved to San Francisco, I remember that's what they would do. Oh no, we're going to play blah blah blah. We're just going to go throw them in there. We'll be back in a few weeks. Good luck on that. You never know, I guess.
Yeah.
So, what kind of weed do you like the most? And what's your preferred way to imbibe?
Smoking is what I do the most.
Yeah, me too.
But my preference is in some of the emulsions. It's for me at this point they're a little faster acting, consistent for what I'm smoking. Of course, is the quickest. But as far as consistency and potency, liquid form. And if I have something like one of our quickies, I won't usually go direct. It's a capful or two in a LaCroix water or something.
Right, same here.
Which, if anybody is on a budget, that's 10 milligrams. You can always get a quickies and apply it to your own cola and save a little dollars. That's just a pro tip. I love.
That's a fix.
We'll let somebody else who wasn't watching this podcast go pay full price for the soda. And not
I think
get
they
the
should,
quickies.
and support Manzanita Naturals.
That's true.
I personally think there's something, it's like something, the same thing with champagne, there's something about drinking the fizzy cannabis drink,
Yeah, I
rather
think
than
so.
any other edible
Yeah.
or any other thing. Now, if I tend to eat something in a meal, like a cracker or something, it can tend to make me a little more paranoid, but for
Yeah.
some reason, when I drink those, it just kind of makes me high and happy and giggly.
Yeah, and it's you've probably seen this with some of the
It's
edibles.
euphoric, it's kind of like booze in a weird
Yeah,
way.
and that's why I like it. And it's funny because, I have my lab set up and I'm doing the flavor sampling. And I don't intentionally get high at work, but there's so many surfaces where cross-contamination is likely, and whether you don't even think about it, you're using a stirrer or whatever, and then touch your eye, and then, you're sitting there staring at your computer screen and realizing it's sort of like...
Yeah, I had a friend that would his friend would drop off big bags of shake when I first
Yeah.
moved to San Francisco, Johnny, and he would make ghee in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
And I would come in after work and the door would be closed. He goes, "You're not going to be here very long." And I'd be sitting there talking to him. I went, "Okay, I have to go nap now."
Because it just on airborne.
Oh God, it was so strong. Yeah, it was
You were in
just
a
in that
vape
room.
compartment.
Yeah, in a vape compartment for like a good half hour, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta go pass out." Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a big part of the beverage set, and it's any beverage who's doing it properly. Now, some people don't emulsify properly, but one of the benefits of liquid drinks is that they become liquid emulsified, and the particles are small enough to be sublingual. So
Okay.
if you do an edible, like a chocolate or a cookie or a brownie, it has to go through your liver, gets processed,
Right.
and it gives a different high. But this, even just a swish in the mouth, immediate application to bloodstream, not
Yeah.
via liver, and I think that's where some of the
That might be
euphoric,
it.
slightly different feel comes from.
Because when it goes through my regular system, that's when I have a tendency of like maybe getting crazy paranoid for a while.
For me, I do enjoy it if I'm trying to soundly see. Sometimes if I eat it and it goes through the full system, then I feel a little more like I want to lay down or relax.
Do you use cannabis to sleep? I do.
Our quick Z's is one of my
Quick
favorites.
Z's, yeah, me too, use that.
Specifically the Z's.
The quick peas. Yeah, totally. No, those
Z's.
are great. Z's.
Yeah, Z's.
Totally.
Yeah, and I'll usually do it if I don't do it as I'm turning off the light.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll actually start getting brain active and it's not helpful.
I usually try about half an hour before I go to bed.
Yeah, mine's
Or an hour.
1 minute.
Yeah.
15 minutes, then I'll be thinking about interesting things.
Oh no, I'll get all yawny and sleepy and then go to sleep.
Yeah.
So you
yeah,
indica
yeah.
or sativa?
If I
Or
have
combo?
Combo, I'm hybrid. And what Pickles was saying, 1-1 is usually one of my favorites if I can swing that. They're a little trickier to come by unless I'm having our own supply. But But in the world of metric, you can't just freely take from your own products.
That's the whole world. It's no longer. It's like, oh,
and I keep
I'm taking
complaining
my.
about it, but then I'm also thinking of pharmacopoeia companies and people who are at Pfizer can't just like swing.
I need some
through
more
the
value.
production. Yeah, exactly. Like, why? I work here. What the
Guys,
heck?
don't even help me these fire. What are you talking about?
But there's ways around it, and thankfully I think the law is softening where we do have appropriate ways on metric and the tracking systems now to start receiving products out that are a little more forgiving.
Do you think the state's ever going to ease off a little bit and become more conducive to the things that cannabis community can do? Or
you look at something like pharmacopoeia, or you look at alcohol, and really a lot of this track and trace, it all comes down to tax dollars.
Right.
So free medicine is not part of their tax program, unfortunately.
Right.
And unless we get really benevolent legislators who agree that this is a special medicine class that deserves to be treated outside of the tax regulatory system, I fear it's going to stay similar.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think we have seen, which is huge, because I've watched it, it made me want to cry. We've had to destroy pallets of product.
I remember.
And we had veterans groups that were ready to pick them up, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't make the transfer. And that is the one place where we've seen a little more leniency from the state being demonstrated that they will allow in the future, in my opinion, to qualified groups that have presented themselves properly as a beneficial medicine.
Yeah.
And I don't really see that in, say, the category alcohol. There is no way you can just have free alcohol.
Well, it's also kind of hard to sell alcohol as being like a good for you medication, except for
they try
the morning after, or the dog that bit you or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, well, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and hang out with us.
It's always nice.
Oh, you're so awesome. And I look forward to every time you guys come out, and anytime you guys are part of the. I got one too. Cheers!
And hold it up to your camera there, Dan.
Yay, Manzanita!
Yeah.
One of my favorites. Really. I mean, I can't recommend it more. And thank you so much. You guys are so awesome, and thank you for your support.
And I gotta say thank you. Actually, even though we've done it 7 years plus, I think this is the first time that I've actually sat down and told the whole story from beginning to end. Because you see me around, but I hang out behind. Our company is not big on press and media.
Right,
we don't really do that. We're just sort of a behind the scenes consistent company, and so it's nice to be able to spell it out.
It's been fascinating to hear what you have to say too.
Yeah, well, it's now archived for eternity. We'll put this in some sort of like seed bank to be discovered on.
Well, it's going to be. This is all going to be so much famous in a few years. We'll be doing some big retro look at what we've been doing.
Well, I would do a podcast for you, but I probably won't do more than that. So this will be my chronicle.
Well, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Give it up for Tanner Wolf, everybody. And how if people get in touch with you, or they're interested about Manzanita, what should they do?
Yeah, our website has all the links, and they go. Yeah, I get wind of all of that, and I think we have a lot of different forms and phone numbers and stuff like that.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
And Facebook, you can sign up there.
Always Facebook. Okay.
Although the activity there is a little bit quiet. So if anybody's a qualified social media manager, feel free to apply.
I don't know what's going on with social media, because it was Facebook was against cannabis, and they get down on. I get banned all the time on Facebook. But now Instagram has been doing it.
Okay.
So
not my department. Well, if somebody knows how to be clever and work around the fringe.
They've had to you have to be creative all the time, so it just keeps us on our toes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations on our first podcast.
Thank you so much.
Excited. Ladies and gentlemen, DJ Day.
Everybody, I am DJ Day. This has been the very first Mission Cannabis Control live from the Mission Cannabis Club here in beautiful San Francisco. I am more than excited and happy to have had all these wonderful guests here. I want to thank so much for Veronica Guevara to be giving us all the news. That was awesome. Pup Pickles, thank you so much for being here. Scrumbly, of course, Scrumbly Coleman, and Taylor Wolf. Thank you all for helping us, launch this new series. And I'll be back with more people. I already having people that are signing up, wanting to be on the show. So I believe there's a lot for us to talk about within the cannabis community here in San Francisco, especially from a queer perspective, because there are a lot of us around here. And so thank you everybody for showing up. I'm DJ Dank. Thank you, Paul, for being the engineer. And also thank you, the Mission Cannabis Club, for letting us take over their smoking lounge. But if you like this show, plan on coming out and coming to the next one. We can get stoned together and talk and have questions and have a good time. Thank you very much. But anyway, let me see the other things that I can.
No, I meant like and subscribe below and all the socials.
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
you're on.
Like and subscribe below. I didn't know what his. I was getting signals from the engineer. I thought he meant to stretch it out. I'm like, stretch it out. But yes, all below. Follow, love, favorite, hashtag. And you can find me at djdanksf@gmail, and also you can find me on Instagram at djdanksf as well. And please check out my puff column at 48hills.org. And that's it for now, and thank you so much. We're out of here. DJ
Hey, everybody, give it up.